The portrait of Queen Elizabeth II were on Malaysian, Singaporean and Bruneian banknotes until 1967, long after Malaya achieved its independence on 1957 and even 2 years after the separation of Singapore from Malaysia in 1965. If the Queen is no longer the head of the state of independent Malaya, later Malaysia and later Republic of Singapore, why did her portrait remained on Malayan Dollar for so long? That is the story of how the portrait of the Queen stayed on Ringgit for 10 years after Malaya's independence due to the turbulent history of the early Malaysia and Singapore. In the era of British Malaya, the portrait of the reigning king of the United Kingdom adorned the currency of Malaya, which officially called Malayan Dollar, but Ringgit is also official in Malay documents written in Old Jawi writing, right here. The colonial currency was issued by the Board of Commissioners of Currency of Malaya, or short is BCCM, which were the currency used in Malay State, Straits Settlement and Brunei. Before 1945, Sarawak and North Borneo, which is today Sabah, used a different currency but with at par value with equal value with the Malayan dollar, while printing and issuing their own currency respectively in Kuching and also in Sultan. Aftermath of World War II, when Japan wrecked the local economy with hyperinflation, printing a lot of money and hundreds of dollars means very few, the currency board of Malaya, Straits Settlement, Sarawak and North Borneo combined together to form a Board of Commission of Currency Malaya and British Borneo BCCMBB in the year 1952 to facilitate the monetary policies for post-war growth. During the formation of BCCMBB, Malaya and British Borneo used the older currency with the portrait of King George VI and the older name of the board, BCCM of course. With the accession of Queen Elizabeth II onto the throne in the year 1953, the portrait of the monarch was changed together with the name of the board, BCCMBB, the last currency before the eventual independence of the colonies of British Southeast Asia. Right after the independence of Malaya in the year 1957, the banknote transition to post-independence issue has already begun, together with the establishment of the new Bank of Malaya right before the declaration of independence. The Queen's portrait will be changed to another design on the obverse or in the front part of the banknote and also the reverse part. The question is, whose portrait should be put in the brand new post-independence currency? There was a suggestion to put the portrait of Hang Tuah, a classical figure in the ancient Malacca Sultanate in the 50th century, which is quite a really peculiar idea because nobody knows what exactly Hang Tuah looks like because there is no surviving contemporary sources. There was also a suggestion to simply use the national emblem of Malaya as the main currency design with the central bank name then, Bank Negara Tanah Melayu, Central Bank of Malaya. The proposed currency can be used not only in Malaya but also in Singapore, Sarawak, North Borneo and Brunei, as Malaya is still the member of the Board of Commission of Currency of Malaya and British Borneo. Interchangeability with the money with other former British colonies. Instead, the post-independence ringgit or dollar used the daily scenery of a Malayan countryside, which fishing boats in $1 issued in 1959 and the ox cart in $10 in the year 1961. With the development of a formation of Malaysia, the idea to combine the former British colony into a single country, which hastened the independence of former British colonies of British Borneo, North Borneo and Sarawak together with Singapore, and enlarging the nation in the wake of the Cold War to prevent the spread of communism, changing the design of currency is not really a big priority, and as a result, there was no issuance of a new currency when the formation of Malaysia was finalized on the 60th of September 1963. With the refusal of Brunei to join Malaysia in 1963 and the separation of Singapore from Malaysia 2 years later in 1965, the future of the unified currency is in limbo since Malaysia has established its own Central Bank of Malaysia, and ready to leave a sterling area. What is sterling area means? Which means that the Malayan dollar at that time still pegged with the value of the pound sterling in United Kingdom, and such the establishment of the central bank will be likely to break the peg of ringgit with the pound sterling, and as a result the separation of the currency into three different currency for each countries was inevitable. Despite the separation of the countries and the separation of the monetary authorities, the value of these three currencies were just the same. The currency of Malaysia, Singapore and Brunei were at par value. 1 Malayan dollar equal to 1 Singaporean dollar and equal to 1 Bruneian dollar. What a wonderful time then. The interchangeability of $1 equal to $1 equal to $1 remained until the year 1973, when Malaysia unilaterally pulled out from the interchangeability agreement due to oil shock in the year 1973, which devastated the global economy. Bear in mind, Malaysia is really heavily reliant on the export products for the national economy, while Singaporean dollar and Bruneian dollar decided to stick together and remain at par value until today, in the year 2022. And historically, the currency name itself, Malayan Dollar or Malayan Ringgit, it used concurrently. The name of the currency depends on what language you speak, either English or Malay. I still remember in 2018 when I was going for a job hunting in Singapore, and in the midnight bus stopped at some area near Kampung Glam, near Masjid Sultan, if you know. And there is one really old uncle in 7-Eleven in charge of the cashier area, and I want to buy a transport card called EasyLink, and he spoke in Malay because he saw me, and he said in Malay what I want to buy. And when they say that I want to buy some transport card, and he say that okay, the price is 10 ringgit, he speak in Malay, 10 ringgit harga, which means that the difference of name depends on the difference of language used, because it long time ago Malaysia, Singapore and Brunei used all the same currency. Today, due to separation of the countries and also separation of the currency, ringgit is exclusively used in context of Malaysia, while dollar is official in Singapore regardless of what language you use. While Bruneian dollar still maintain what used to be called ringgit locally or in Malay, and it is called dollar in English and also in overseas, even in Malaysia, to differentiate from Malaysian ringgit. A little remnant of past currency when the Queen's portrait was there previously. The gap between independence Malaya and the first full series of post-independence currency is about 10 years. Then, what are the reasons the colonial currency still circulating 10 years after independence of Malaya, 4 years after formation of Malaysia, and 2 years after the separation of Singapore? Reason number 1, monetary issues. Board of Commission of Currency of Malaya, a British Borneo, was formed as British Malaya was part of the sterling area then, before the independence. After the separation of Singapore in the year 1965, there was a kind of heated discussion whether the Board of Commission of Currency was still relevant. The article wrote in 1966 mentioned the possibility of 3 countries combined together within the one currency union. Still 3 different countries, but the currency is still the same. With the tug-of-war discussion when Malaysia want the capital control to protect the export-oriented economy, while Singapore want more capital movement freedom to attract foreign investments. Brunei, while sitting at the side pegging with the currency, and Singapore happily to sit there and watch the fight between Malaysia and Singapore. Reason number 2 why the currency is so slow to change is because of the printing issues. Due to security, safety and technological reason, Malayan dollar was traditionally printed in the United Kingdom, either by Thomas De La Rue Company or Wilkinson and Bradbury. You might ask, why does not print here in Kuala Lumpur or printed in Singapore? Because of these 3 things. When Malayan dollar was printed in England, was and is printed in England, it was not legal tender there. Nobody can spend ringgit in England. The advanced technology of banknote printing means only a few printing house has the latest technology of secure printing. Not all places have the best and the advanced secure ways to print the money to avoid to prevent counterfeiting especially. The change of design of banknotes could take several years of process to change the old banknotes to the new, from drawing process to engraving for the printing plate, and then printing the printing process itself, and also transporting the new banknote from the factory to the destination country. Adding to the political situation before and immediate aftermath of the formation of Malaysia in the early 60s, the currency change was not a critical priority. The practice of printing the money overseas continues up until today, where Malaysian banknotes are still printed either in England or Germany or China, where the Singaporean and Bruneian polymer banknotes were printed in Australia. And the reason number 3 why the government did not change the old banknote suddenly to the new is because to avoid a serious inflation. One of the ways government can destroy the economy is to print too much money. Usually when there is a new banknote released, the gradual change from old to new could take years if not decades to complete. Of course, the government or central bank can declare that okay, this money will be not acceptable tomorrow, but this act could spark tension and confusion among people. Remember when India demonetized 501,000 rupees suddenly in 2016, render a lot of people lose their value of their money. And even in Malaysia, if you are lucky enough, you can still find paper 1 ringgit still being used. Even the polymer 1 ringgit has been introduced in 2009, more than a decade ago. Even the old coin from the year 1967 is still legal tender and acceptable today. After decades of differences in motifs and portraits, some of the legacy of past colonial dollars persists. For example, the color. Current banknote of Malaysia, Singapore and Brunei largely follow the colors of the past colonial Malayan dollar when the Queen is still there, which in turn copy from the Bank of England's banknote colors. 5 for green, 10 for red and navy blue for 50, and the rest color mixing up. Those are some of the remnants of the last colonial currency in Malaysia, Singapore and Brunei, with the portrait of the Queen in front, the last sovereign ruler of the colonial British Malaya. If you want to see the old banknotes used in Malaya and Singapore, you can visit Bank Negara Gallery and Numismatic Museum at Sasana Kijang, Jalan Dato' On, located behind the headquarters of Bank Negara Malaysia and opposite of Tunku Abdul Rahman Memorial. If you take public transport, you can take LRT to Bandaraya Station and walk a little bit to KTM commuter station of Bank Negara. Exit at Bank Negara Station and just walk towards the road and turn right and keep walking until you find a building, Sasana Kijang. Meanwhile, if you are in Singapore, you can visit MAS Gallery, Monetary Authority of Singapore, not Malaysia Airlines. MAS Gallery in MAS Building, Shenton Way. You can arrive by bus to Shenton Way Bus Terminal if you take bus from Collyer Quay, or by MRT Tanjong Pagar East West Line. Take exit D and walk towards Prince Edward Road. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something about the past currency that being used in British Malaya, Singapore and British Borneo a long time ago. And this is such an enigmatic thing that the Queen that used to have a portrait before the independence of Malaya is alive until the year 2022. So thank you so much for watching again and see you in the next video.